Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to yet another webinar of Steelman's Engage, a 5-day webinar series covering a broad spectrum of topics ranging from iron ore and coal to ferrous scrap and steel. The objective is to understand the perspective of industry leaders on various topics identified for discussion and enable our clients to have a better understanding on how each sector is likely to evolve in the near future. I am Nirmallo Dev, Editor, Technology, Steel 360, your host for the afternoon. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our esteemed sponsors, NMDC, Tata Steel, and Rumta Steel. This session is on ship recycling industry forward. Preliminary remarks from my side. A total of 120 ships were broken in the third quarter of 2021. Of these, 87 were sold to the beaches in South Asia, the world's largest ship recycling hub. Shipbreaking import prices have also seen a recovery since May 2021. Alang's ship cutting plate prices are also on the rise. Steelmint gathered from sources that Alang recyclers remain eager for tonnage in the fourth quarter as Indian buyers took the top spot in the subcontinent by taking in the largest number of vessels last week from competitors Bangladesh and Pakistan. Overall, shipbreaking prices are expected to stay firm towards the year end. I would now like to invite our speakers for this session, Mr. Gaurav Mehta, Director, Best Overseas Limited, and Ms. Kavya Yadav, Marketing Manager, Best Overseas Limited. A warm welcome to you, sir, and ma'am too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But before we invite our esteemed panelists to share their views, I would invite Ms. Nishtha Mukherjee, General Manager, Iron Ore and Scrap at Steelmint, to deliver a short presentation on the recent trends in the ship recycling industry. Over to you, Ms. Mukherjee.
So much, sir, and a very good afternoon to everyone. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, Nishtha is visible.
Thank you so much. So we'll have a very quick look at the current market trends of ship recycling industry, focusing largely on South Asian markets and the way forward. Starting with the shipbreaking import volumes in South Asia. So we have seen a recovery in the current volumes of 9 months calendar year 21. Well, in CY20, due to pandemic woes, lockdown restrictions, these factors resulted in pulling down the import volumes in CY20. So that actually resulted in drop in imports. Well, another reason that resulted in drop in volumes was the diversion of oxygen supplies for medical assistance during COVID, which actually again hampered the shipbreaking volumes. However, in CY21, we have seen a recovery in the volumes. Compared to the 9 months of CY20, 9 months of CY21 has seen an increase in all the majority of the markets like Bangladesh and Pakistan. Volumes of Bangladesh moved up by around 40% and that for Pakistan by around 60%. However, there was a slight dip of around 20% seen in the volumes for India. Coming on to the next slide on price trends. I think there is some technical glitch. Please give me a moment to shift on to the next slide. Yeah. Next, we have the price trends of South Asian markets. So as Nirmala sir already mentioned in his opening remarks that we have seen prices surging currently of late since May 21, a sharp recovery has been seen. So What are the reasons that are driving these prices? Yes, of course, the active demand that is seen and the shortage of the vessels, which is seen worldwide. We have seen prices for containers touching $600 per LDT recently. So prices have touched an all-time high since we have been tracking the data since 2016. Next, talking on the factors that are governing the ship recycling market dynamics. First, of course, we feel that the sound practices should be in place in order to ensure safe and environmentally sound dismantling process. Of course, ensuring the best working conditions for the workers involved in it for the betterment of these workers. And of course, use of proper infrastructure, equipments, and procedures for the waste disposal. So that was all a short presentation from our end. Nirmala sir, over to you again.
Thank you, Ms. Puji. Let me now turn to our esteemed speakers. Mr. Gaurav Sanjay Mehta possesses extensive experience of more than a decade in the cash buying and ship recycling industry. Under his competent leadership, Best OSS has successfully purchased and sold more than 600 vessels for recycling. He leverages the skills and expertise gained in the ship recycling sector to help ship owners get the maximum value for their vessels in the end of life stage. With his in-depth knowledge and sharp business acumen, Mr. Mehta is consistently delivering value to the industry by promoting sustainable recycling of ships, besides giving the best economic value to asset owners. Mr. Mehta, I would now request you to share your valuable inputs. Over to you, sir.
Thank you everyone for inviting, first of all, Steelmint, for inviting us as a panelist. And for your information, we have basically been in this business for over 10 years, and we've been doing a lot of sales and purchases for assets which are also in the offshore side of the business, which basically means like rigs, jackups, semi-submersibles. And this has been our major chunk of work in the last few years, where we have about 85 to 90% of market share. So to give you an idea about how the market is in all three locations, is that India has really come up in the last 1 week from all other competitors. It is giving the highest prices for mid-size vessels. So in India, the market remains always for mid-sized vessels, because as you know, the banks are not able to give enough credit limits compared to Pakistan and Bangladesh, where the credit limits are much higher for the breakers. So they tend to go for the larger assets, and India goes for the mid-size assets. As the price also increases, the value of the goods increases, and accordingly the the amount a buyer can import also decreases. Still, India has the highest amount of yards in the world, and we also have in India a very good part that we are able to recycle up to 98% of the ships, whereas for other countries it is a bit lower because they don't have good for the non-ferrous items, stainless steel items. It's not a very good market over there, and plus they have to dump in all the goods which are of the cabin area, whereas India can resell all these things. So this is a plus point for India. And this is the market structure in Bangladesh right now, is that they prefer larger ships, and they have also really come up in the last week. So as Pakistan, but right now Pakistan is at the lower end. Bangladesh is also at the top, and India is at the top at the moment.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot for your opening remarks. I would now like to turn to ma'am, it's a panelist, Mrs. Kavya Yadav. She's a marketing professional with extensive experience in multiple sectors in India as well as the Middle East. She is currently associated with Best OSS Limited as their marketing manager, handling the overall Marcom for the company. Within a short span of just 1 year in the cash buying and ship recycling industry, Ma'am Yadav has swiftly gained the trust of the industry through her detailed weekly ship recycling report, which contains the latest news and updates about the industry. Being a strong proponent of ESG compliance, she is consistently working towards creating awareness about the environmental and economic benefits of responsible ship recycling in the industry. I would request Ms. Kavya to share her views on the industry. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, could you kindly unmute yourself?
Oh, I'm really sorry. So, hello everyone, and I would really like to thank Steelman for conducting these sessions because in past 4 days, I have learned a lot about the industry. Different sectors of the industry, iron ore, coal, and everything from the webinar. So, a big thank you, and I hope you keep on conducting these sessions to get a pool of knowledge from somewhere. And with regards to ship recycling industry, I think. Mr. Mehta has said he has a decade of experience, and so he has said most of it. But I would like to add on that since this year, Finance Minister has also included recycling, especially ship recycling, in the budget and their plans, the big plans for the future. Like by 2024, they want to make India one of the biggest in ship recycling and other even the vehicle recycling policies and everything. So I think the government of India is focusing a lot, which will benefit Indian market. And the other things which India, like India has about 95 ICC compliant yards now, so that is also a big plus point. And we just have to work, I think, more on two things. First, as Mr. Mehta highlighted, the government, the banks, who need to focus on and be more helpful in helping this industry flourish. And secondly, the like the awareness. I think in the world level, there is awareness of how green Indian recycling yards are. As I've been attending some conferences lately, and I realized that everyone is of the view that the Indian subcontinent, like all Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India, all three are still doing the traditional form of recycling where the environmental parameters are not taken care of. But they need to know, like India need to promote, and everyone needs to be aware that how much we have improved. Like 95 HKC compliant yards is a big number, so India can handle, and these are very much equivalent to the international standard which EU SSR stands for. So I think the world needs to be aware of the fact that India has been the best. Like India is one of the best place for recycling.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks a lot for your remarks. I would now like to commence the question and answer session. Uh, my first question to sir. Bangladesh has been largely focusing on tanker tonnages. So, what are the factors driving it, sir?
Actually, right now, the most available tonnage in the market is tankers because, as you may be aware, that bulkers and containers are at a best price right now, and per day price for containers ranges from $150,000 a day to $200,000. So these ships, even though old or rusted, will not come for recycling. For they will try to trade it till the end of her life. They have not seen such a good market in the last decade, so they will take the most of it. So as the bulker market also not seen such an uptick, so they none of the bulkers or containers are going to come for the time being, and we do not expect them to come maybe for the next 1.5 year because most of them have taken long-term charters with from good companies. So with this in place, the most available tonnage is tankers. And as I had explained to you earlier, Bangladesh has Bangladesh, first of all, has good financial capacity to finance such large transactions from their banks for the ship recycling sector. And also that the buyers over there are keener to buy larger tonnages because there is such a requirement of steel in that country right now due to their developments, and there is no other availability of steel except for scrap and ship scrap. So whereas India has iron ore, India has other options for steel. Bangladesh and Pakistan both don't have it. So it's not just Bangladesh who's buying larger tonnages, so is Pakistan also buying such large tonnages.
Yes.
Okay. Next question from my side. Ms. Kavya, how do you see the ongoing trends for India and Pakistan?
See, as Mr. Mehta pointed out, that India is Pakistan is buying at a good speed because of their, they are highly dependent on scrap metal for their needs, steel needs. And India also, because right now the availability of vessels is very low. It's extremely low, I can say, because like containers and bulkers were already low because of their, their shortage. But now with the oil market picking up, tankers are also very, tankers. We are seeing very few vessels in the recycling market right now. So definitely the prices are picking up on a very high rate. So we are only seeing the prices going northwards right now. And I think this will continue for the next quarter also because of the lack of available tonnage in the market.
But like as you mentioned in your opening remarks also that along the developments are on a higher side and we expect ramp up in the volumes. So any comment of yours on that?
Any comment on the recycling yards or the availability of vessels?
No, the capacity and all these factors.
Nishta, I don't know if this is a problem on my earphone or because I couldn't hear your last
Okay,
statement.
I'll just repeat it.
Yeah.
In the recent budget announcements that they have been announcements related to Alang. So your views on that?
Yeah, I think Alang is very much in place right now to be one of the best recycling destinations because of the infrastructure that we have developed throughout the past 10 years. Like before 2015, I could like people could point out that it is not a very good, in terms of environmental parameters and how we follow the strict compliance. But right now, if anyone comes to visit Alang and they see the infrastructure in place, they will definitely, get to know themselves that Alang is the place to be, like to send their vessels for recycling. It has just, I think, like how Mr. Mehta pointed out, the banks need to be supportive now because India has the potential to buy vessels. India has all the infrastructure in place, but because of the limits the banks are giving, we cannot buy bigger vessels right now. So I think if the banks also become supportive, if we get the good term like support from government in this aspect, then like we are good to go, like great to be.
Yes, ma'am. So my next question to you, Mr. Mehta, how has currency depreciation impacted South Asia's shipbreaking industry?
The currency as such for the Indian ship recycling yards has not been a big difference in the last 1 year because it has been range bound between 70 to 75, whereas the real currency depreciation has been, in Pakistan, where due to their currency deficits, it has been a very large change. So due to this reason, they in between had they were quite dry, they were not buying any vessels at all due to this currency factor, whereas Bangladesh has a very normal currency rates where it does not fluctuate much and has been controlled by their central bank. So there's not much change in Bangladesh as well. The real problem was for Pakistan in the last one and a half year, and it had reached its highest peak a few days back, and now it's coming back to normal, but it is still quite far away from what it was before.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, my next question to you, would you like to highlight any instance on creating public awareness and discuss on the environmental aspects of shipbreaking?
Yeah, as I pointed out in my first comment that public, like in terms of the owners need to understand that I from what I heard recently in a conference, they were telling that when the owners are in favor of recycling, then they fear that the legal team will come up, or the some NGOs will come up, or something will come up and tell them that okay, you're not doing it in the right way, and so they fear, mostly their legal departments, they fear the most. So I think awareness needs to come in that aspect, that the yards, the Asian yards are they, even like India has 95 HKC yards, and even Bangladesh has one now. Even the Pakistan recyclers are very much, they want to get themselves prepared for the like the upcoming surge of green recycling. They know the future is green, so they're also trying to make improvements in their infrastructure in the yard. So yes, we are aware, and as a cash buyers also, we take utmost due diligence that all the vessels which come are free of all the hazardous uh, things, and they are all the we take very much care of the vessels, so that it's free, it's gas free for hot works, and all the hazardous elements like asbestos and hard metals, they are free of them. So yes, if everyone in the cycle, they need to be aware what hazards are there, and the owners and on world level, they need to know that we are aware and we are working every day on it, and with due diligence we perform everything. So they need to, yeah, so total awareness is there right now. People are aware the of the environmental impacts, and the even the people, like the harmful effect it has on the public, on the workers. So people are aware, and they need to follow utmost care in terms of that.
Also, the thing, just to add in over here, the also the other problem which we face right now is that there is no fixed legislation which to follow. So India is working basis the Hong Kong Convention, but it is still not in effect, as there are other countries which needs to ratify this legislation to for it to be working worldwide. The other problem is the EU SSR. So with the EU SSR, European countries have basically blocked India by having a new law over there called the ban amendment. So with the ban amendment, no European vessels, European flag vessels can ever come to India till this ban amendment has not changed. And the EU cannot certify any yards outside OECD countries. So these are a few challenges which we are facing at the moment. Government is also working on it, but as you know that government to government takes some long period of time to happen. But we have been requesting both sides to find a solution, because lot of the yards have invested very heavily inside the infrastructure to make the yard EU compliant. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So as you rightly pointed out about the OECD and the European countries not letting, but there have been news, sir, I was reading recently of vessels changing flags and coming to Southeast Asia.
Yes, this is bound to happen because there is no availability of yards in Europe, and the price levels between Europe and India is very large. Means if you are recycling in Europe, you might not even get $50 a ton, whereas over here you will get $600 a ton. So anyone who would think financially will always try to cut corners and ways to bring the vessel towards the subcontinent.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So my next question to you, actually for lay people like me, and for I believe many among the participants also, can you elaborate on the Hong Kong Convention and the main points of that convention, and which all countries are following the convention?
So India has already ratified the HKC. Then there is Netherlands, Norway. There are a few European countries who have done. Gabon has done. The problem with Hong Kong Convention at the moment is that the people, which is a good thing about HKC, is that they are saying that the country which is going to be recycling, they have to ratify the convention first. So there is about 60 or 65% once I think 65, maybe 70% of the total volume. So if there is, say, ships of also Turkey has done ratification. So if there are ships of say 100,000 tons which has come in a year, out of that 70% is say recycled in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So India, suppose, has ratified, that is 35%, but the rest of them have not ratified the convention. The convention can come into force only when 70% of the capacity where the vessels are recycled have ratified this convention. So this is a that is why till now the convention has not been ratified, and we are awaiting for other Pakistan or Bangladesh, either of them. If they ratify, then this legislation will be in place world over. So this is going to play a major role. There was China was also a part of this, but if they don't ratify in the next 2 years, then still the legislation will not come into force. So we'll see how it goes. But the major points in HKC are that you have to recycle the vessel in a manner where you are not dropping the you can drop on the seabed, but you have to pick up the steel from the seabed prior the water is coming in. Like, so we have tides and ebbs, so you cannot put the steel plate inside the water because it has dust, it has steel particles which goes into the sea, which we do not want. And then I'm talking in a layman language so everyone can understand. And also oils have to be removed prior recycling. Then there are other portions where environmentally friendly things have to happen. You cannot sell asbestos. So India allows to sell asbestos, but as per Hong Kong Convention, you are not allowed to sell asbestos. Then there is other hazardous materials which are as per our regulations, Indian regulations, may be allowed to be resold, but as per HKC is not allowed to be resold. So these things have changed, but with Indian yards being quite promising in the last years, and the way forward, Indian yards have been green. So I believe that Indians will work only as per HKC in the coming days, and India has ratified. So 98% of the yards are now green. So we don't have much things to do except for improvising on what we have right now. If so, few of the other countries ratify, the main recycling countries, then this will really boost Hong Kong Convention worldwide. And then the EU SSR will become more or less null and void because then most of the people will start using HKC as the main thing, and it is basically made for the recycling industry.
Thank you so much, sir, for that elaborative answer. My next question to Ms. Yadav, what is your outlook for the rest of calendar year 21, both in terms of vessel availability as well as prices?
So in terms of prices, I think with the current supply chain bottlenecks, since the imported shredded and imported scrap metal prices are rising everywhere, like not rising, I think skyrocketing. If I can say a bigger, like if there's a much bigger word than that, because right now with the coal shortage, with shortage of containers, everything, the steel prices are going to be high for the rest. I think for the next 5 to 6 months, easily we can say that. And with that, with the rising steel prices, definitely the prices of ship plates are going to be high. So in terms of prices, they are going to be high, but in terms of availability, currently it's very low. And I think with the if the tanker vessels are also, slightly their volume has reduced. Previously, like 3 4 months ago, we were seeing a much better availability of tonnage, but right now it's very scarce. So we are hoping to see more tonnage in demolition market so that the prices can stabilize. But right now they are very high. I think they are their historical highs. So,
Yes, ma'am. And then before we throw open the floor to questions from our participants, I would just like to know one thing from you about the ESG compliance part.
yes.
The Indian recyclers vis-a-vis those in Pakistan and Bangladesh. So, I mean, how far do they lag compared to the Indian recyclers on the ESG front?
So see, first I'll explain you what exactly, like I told you that India has around 95 HKC compliant yards. So how they become HKC compliant is See, HKC came in place in 2009, and then it had some conditions that it will come into force when 15 of the countries or 40% of the global shipping tonnage uh, and like ratifies it, and then 24 months after that ratification, HKC will come into force. So since that took so long, so in around 2014-15, EU-SSR came into place. So European Union said that they put certain conditions that if these are fulfilled, you will be EU compliant yard, and they put like enforced it for at least the EU vessel, like EU flagged vessels. So, and then then the classification societies like Class NK, RENA, and IRS, Indian Register for Shipping, they started this thing that's certifying the yards that if you their interpretation of HKC that if you are following this condition, you are Class NK compliant. If you are following this, you are Class RENA compliant. So like that. So India has, because of maybe the volume and something and the infrastructure in place, India has been able to fulfill all that in very short span of time. So within last 3-4 years, we have seen a lot of yards being HKC compliant. Whereas in Pakistan, I'm not sure about the reason. I think Mr. Mehta can speak on it because I'm not very much aware about it. But from what I feel, it is about the infrastructure part. But I think if Mr. Mehta can speak on this, because I'm really not aware why Pakistan and Bangladesh are lagging behind in this aspect.
Basic thing, thanks, Kavya. Basic thing why in Pakistan and Bangladesh are away is because they do not have a facility for moving the hazardous material in a safe manner. So, whereas India has a place called JPIL, that is the Gujarat Environment Pollution and check hazardous material area. So we can send all the asbestos or glass wool or any other hazardous material to JPIL, whereas for them it is not possible. They do not have any such facilities. So without this facility, HKC cannot be envisaged. So what the yard in Bangladesh, the only yard which has HKC has done is that they have gone to they have made sure that they are storing all this hazardous material, and whenever the time will come, whenever they will open this kind of a facility in Bangladesh, they will send this material. So they have done it for a period of 10 years, till 10 years on an average vessel. They have calculated amount of hazardous material, and basis this they have made their storages, and if required they will additionally store. So this yard is quite financially strong, and that is why they can do it. But for a smaller yard or a mid-side yard, this kind of infrastructure is not possible. If you want to have stored asbestos or such a high level of hazardous material, you need a lot of infrastructure. You have to have cementing done. You have to be dumping it in the right manner. So all these things is not possible for a small yard. So therefore, they have not been able to actually get into it. Norway has given some funding to the Bangladesh government to have to make such a hazardous facility, and the work is undergoing. So we may expect in the next 2 to 3 years or 5 years this will be available, and during that time the yards have already started upgrading. So next for 4 to 5 years you may see Bangladesh yards, many of them coming up with HKC. And Pakistan is lacking behind quite a lot. They have not really worked on the HKC front by now. Their work, we have just been in touch with them, and we are helping them with Indian Register of Shipping to see if they can start certifying these yards. So if there is one yard who certifies, and then other yards can see the benefit of this certification, thereafter only the other yards will start working on it. And these are Pakistan has many other issues as well locally, so it is quite tough for them to become HKC compliant soon.
Okay. Sir, one last question from my end before we start with the audience Q&A. So roughly, what is the number of ships that annually come to India? And if you could just bifurcate the volumes, how much re-rolling and melting scrap is generated?
Yeah, so total number of ships which come to India generally vary from as per market sentiments and conditions. But average wise 80 to 120 ships come in a year, out of which see the we cannot melting how much and re-rollable how much cannot be said in a particular type of a ship, because larger ships will have higher amount of re-rollable scrap, and smaller ships will have lower amount of re-rollable scrap and more melting scrap. So, and it is also a type of ship, like a passenger ship will have a lot more melting scrap and very few re-rollables, whereas a tanker will have say 80% or 85% will be re-rollable and 15 will be just melting scrap. And with the present position in the market, the re-rollable scrap requirement is decreasing by the day, because the bigger the most of the melting yard, not sorry, the factories now, they do not wish to have they do not wish to have re-rollable plates, but instead scrap, because of the certification required further for constructions and other parts. So re-rollable plates are now only going for agricultural requirements, or requirements which is for making machineries, not for making construction rods, TMT rods. It's been decreasing by the day. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for your answer. Sir, I would just like to take a few questions from the audience who have been waiting patiently. So, the first question is, of course, for you, sir. Uh, do you see a number of vessels heading to the scrapyard in 2022? What is the number? What would be the volume? And what is your overall outlook for the ship recycling market in 2020?
as you know that you cannot predict a market. There is no market in the world which you can predict. But the ideas what we have presently is that 2022 first half we do see less amount of ships coming up, but we are not sure about how the market will pan out. These are quite high levels, so we feel it's becoming riskier by the day to purchase new vessels. And the recycling period is not just that we buy it and tomorrow it can be recycled. For our trading, yes, we can buy it and sell it tomorrow, but for the recycling yards, they will buy it, and the recycling takes about 6 months to recycle the ship, small mid size 13 to 20,000 lightweight. So this, considering this fact, I can see that there's going to be very less amount of ships available in 2022 first half, and markets should remain good to buoyant, and it may increase a bit further as well from what we have right now.
Yes, sir. And the next question is also for you. What will be the rates paid by ship recycling yards for tankers, bulkers, and containers in the coming days? Do you see more number of vessels heading to the scrapyard in 2022? That part has already been answered.
Yeah,
but
so I'll just give you an idea on the prices.
yes,
Tankers right now is 600 to 620. Bulkers are 580 to 600. Containers do not come at the moment. There are no containers which come for recycling. So for the tankers, I can say that market may become 630, 640, maybe even 650 in the coming days. Bulkers will also, bulkers and tankers, the discount is about $15 to $20. So whatever the tanker price minus $15 will be a bulker price. So this is what we envisage, but maybe the market may become even 700. We don't know. But with looking at the shortage, anything is possible.
and the shortage is likely to persist at least for the coming two
For
quarters.
the first year, till the first half of 2022.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And ma'am, there's a question for you as well. Somebody's asking that that are ship owners looking to be more responsible, highlighting the demand for HKC compliant yards.
Yes, definitely, because some owners are doing it on their own, some are getting pressurized from their financial institutions, some from their legal team, because even the banks have been the banks have to do their ESG reporting as well, and it is getting stronger day by day, so they have to report about how compliant their clients are. Similarly, the environmental awareness right now is on a peak, and it should be because of the current scenario of our world with global warming. It has to be there. So yes, the owners are very much aware of what their responsibilities are, and they are definitely following it. So they are like sometimes the because of the price difference, they might be tempted, but they are not getting tempted because they know what their responsibilities are. So I think the owners are behaving very responsibly, and that should continue for sure.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Uh, I think that was the last question that we have from our participants. And due to time constraints, we have to bring this webinar to a close here. Again, a big thank you to our esteemed speakers and viewers for joining in. And we do hope all of you enjoyed this session. Also, we would like to extend our gratitude to our supporting associations, Indian Steel Association and the Steel Users Federation of India.